So the dragons are attacking them on Wild Dragon Cliff. Okay. Up the dreadful dragon battalion rose, blazing triumphantly with fire, chanting and screaming with victory, leaving the burning wreckage of their victims on the cliff as they prepared to remount the attack. But many of the dragons were caught by the grappling hooks, and with them the ropes, and at the other ends the boulders. As the dragons rose, so the ropes first tightened, then one by one snapped the stones from the ledges. All at once the air was a tapestry of crisscrossing bonds and boulders catapulting across the sky. The dragons shrieked in alarm as the boulders smashed against one, then another, and the ropes whiplashed against heads and wings and talons. The frightened dragons fought to pull away, and when they could not, they turned and attacked one another or entangled other dragons in the mess of ropes. The dragon leader, realising what had happened, screeched for the dragons to stay calm, to pull together, not to panic. But the dragons had not flown together long enough for that, and if dragons hate anything, it's being bound or chained. The ropes terrified them, and pandemonium broke out. One moment they were a victorious, soaring dragon battalion. The next, to the joyous amazement of the young heroes on the rock face, they were a chaos of shrieking dragons, fighting tooth and talon to get free, and dragon after dragon breaking out of the ropes and deserting, streaking for the horizon. The sagas may tell a different story, but that was how Hiccup III won the Battle of Angry Mountain, leading a troop of youngsters clinging to a cliff against a dragon foe that outnumbered them 4-1, using only some old grappling hooks and ropes. Clever old Hiccup, you see, thought his way out of the situation. And this is a map of Flashburn School of Sword Fighting, which is where we're going next. Chapter 4, a game of hide and seek. Just as the rogue dragons disappeared and the cliff face rang out with the young warriors' cheers, the Windwalker finally woke up. "Oh, have I missed something?" he asked innocently. Snotlout was still dangling from the tree below Hiccup, and he had to be rescued by Very Vicious and Thuggery and a couple more of the bulkiest meatheads and fizzy thugs who climbed down to help pull him up. For some reason, they seemed to think that it was quite funny that Snotlout was suspended from the cliff by his underpants with an arrow sticking out of his calf. Oh, Very Vicious and Thuggery roared with laughter. "You look just like a fishy on a hook." "You will regret this, cousin of mine," Snotlout promised himself, removing the arrow from his leg. "Just you wait. You will regret this, Hiccup, and my time will come." Oh, that's not very grateful, is he? Hiccup rescued him, but in his wounded state, he allowed himself to be flown up to the top of the cliff on the back of the Windwalker nonetheless. Very not good of him. It was only 1 o'clock in the morning, but nobody felt like hanging around in case those rogue dragons came back. And besides, most of the hammocks had been burnt to ashes, so the young warriors climbed the rest of the cliff in the darkness of the night time. It was quite tricky, but they had so few of the grappling hooks and ropes left. They reached the Flashburn School of Sword Fighting by about 6 o'clock, according to Hiccup's ticking thing. And by then, the young warriors were a pathetic, bedraggled sight. It was the largest sight castle that Hiccup had ever seen. It was also strangely silent, so imagine they've just turned up and they're probably outside the walls there, this huge castle, in the middle of the night. Oh, nobody knows they're there. They cried up to the walls to be let in, for the drawbridge to be let down, but the great grey walls answered them not. Up on the battlement, flocks of neverbirds nesting in the towers above, and awoken by the commotion, called back with their own longing, melancholy cries, which sounded remarkably like, "Where are you?" The exhausted young warriors threw up their grappling hooks, scaled the castle walls, and collapsed exhausted on the battlements. "I thought we'd really had it that time," gasped Fishlegs. Fishlegs was sprawled beside Hiccup. He had lost his helmet, and his dragon Orica had been so frightened, oh dear, when she heard the words of the rogue dragon of the cliff face, that she had flown on top of Fishlegs' head and entwined her claws into his hair for safety, mooing in a terrified way. Infant dragons often climb onto their mother's back or head and cling to it in times of peril. Kamikaze was so beside herself with overexcitement she was chattering even quicker than normal. "You were brilliant, Hiccup, brilliant! That old grappling hook thing was awesome!" Even in his ragged, singed, exhausted state, Hiccup felt triumphant. Now that they were safe, the young warriors came over to thump Hiccup on the back and thank him for his idea about the grappling hooks. "Oh, good work! What's your name, Hiccup?" grunted Very Vicious the visitor gruffly, clapping him on the back so hard he nearly fell over. "Sorry about the misunderstanding earlier." "I told you," grinned Thaggery the meathead. "He's surprisingly cool." Hiccup, oh, that's nice. Hiccup wasn't used to getting this kind of attention from the tougher, older Vikings. Normally, at best, they ignored him, or at worst, laughed and jeered. "This was what my father meant about getting the respect of my peer group," thought Hiccup, red with embarrassment and pride. Oh, this is good. He's getting... People are realising, finally, that Hiccup is quite something. He's a special person. It felt good. But he still had a feeling of terrible unease at the edges of his mind. He had defeated those dragons for now. But why were different species flying side by side to attack the warriors in the first place? Why did they want Hiccup's sword? And what was that horrible thing that they were chanting in Dragonese? And it wasn't long before the warriors stopped congratulating each other and started looking round at their surroundings questioningly. What was going on? Where was everybody? It looks like they've got the castle to themselves. The silence was deathly. They had never been to the Flashburn School before, but they knew there ought to have been lookouts on the battlements, even at night time. Where were they? There were spears neatly stacked and shields balanced as if someone had just put them away tidily, but nobody was there. That is very odd, isn't it? And old Wrinkly had said that terrible danger awaited them at Flashburn School of Sword Fighting, thought Hiccup. A flap of wings, and Hiccup jumped. We'll have the rest of the chapter tomorrow. Wonder why there's nobody there. The adults should be there. We'll find out tomorrow. See you then.